In this section of videos, we're going to be going through the AR and order entry modules. So you won't really be putting invoices in through the accounts receivable module. If you're creating project contract invoices, you'll do that through projects, through this generate invoices button. And if you wanted to create invoices that are not related to project contracts, you could use the order entry module and the quick bill transaction. And if you create invoices within order entry and projects, they will automatically flow through to accounts receivable and they can be paid then out of accounts receivable. So let's take a look at creating a quick bill invoice in order entry. And I'm going to go down to my entity level to create that transaction. So if I go to my drop down, click into order entry, and then I see I have my little plus button here for quick bill on my menu, which means I can actually just add from here. So I'm going to click that so that I can add directly from the main screen. And anything with a red asterisk here is required. So I do need to put in obviously a customer. So I'm going to do Nighthawk developers. My bill to, ship to, and terms are going to default from my customer setup, as is my default retainage percentage. So it's coming in at 10%, which was set up at the customer level. So I can put in a project that's associated with this. I'm going to do Satanta Towers. And you can add attachments across Intacct wherever you see this. You can either drop it down and hit add and browse from your computer, or you can drag and drop in attachments. So that is available across Intacct. And then you have all these other additional fields that you can fill in. They're not required if they do not have a red asterisk. On your entries screen down here, then, here's your main entry screen. And then if there are other dimensions that you can't see, you can hit the show details button and it brings up every dimension that you can possibly code to. And if you wanted to move this around, let's say it doesn't flow quite like how you would want it to, you can hit more actions and edit entries layout, and you can move around those fields however you like. So let's say location's always required, but I'm going to pull that down because it's going to default in from the project. So I'm going to pull that down here, and once I see the gray box, I can drop it in. So I want to have project, cost code, cost type, item on my main screen, and these other fields are fine. I'm going to leave them alone. So then here I have apply layout changes to all form views. So whether I am creating, editing, or viewing a quick bill, I want this entry screen to look like this. So I'm going to click that button to say, yes, I do want to apply it to create, edit, and view. And we're going to save layout. And then that is going to save this particular layout across the board, so other users will see what you set up here as well. So if I go to show defaults, it shows me that my Satanta Towers is in my project, which is coming in from up here. And then I'm at my Timberline development entity. So my location is coming in here. I can also put in a default department, cost code, whatever you like. And then and then hit apply defaults, and it will apply those defaults on each one of your lines. So anything with the red asterisk is required. You do have to code to an item when using order entry. That is how you will be getting to your GL account, because that is all built off of your items. So item is required, price is required. Anything with the red asterisk you do have to put in. So I'm not going to do cost code or cost type for the purposes of this video, but I'm going to do, let me just do contract item for my item. And then I'm going to do price, and I'm going to do 4,500. I'm not going to bother with retainage. I'm going to hold zero retainage. So $4,500 quick bill invoice for Nighthawk developers, and I'm going to post. And that will create that quick bill in the system for me. And if I go to accounts receivable and look at invoices, that quick bill has flowed right through to accounts receivable. So in the accounts receivable module, then my summary title tells me where my invoice originated. So this is a quick bill invoice because it came from order entry. If it was created directly in accounts receivable, this would say invoices. And if it was a project contract invoice, the summary title would tell me project contract invoice. So from accounts receivable, I cannot delete this invoice because it was created in order entry. I do not see the option to delete out that invoice. If I go back to order entry and look at my quick bill invoice list, I do have the option to delete out that transaction from here. So I can actually do that. I can select and I can delete. And then once that's deleted, that has absolutely no effect on GL. If there was a payment applied to that quick bill invoice, I would not be able to delete it out of the system. It would have to be reversed. So there has to be an audit trail maintained if there's payments against invoices or bills. So anything that has a payment against it will have to be reversed out of the system. So if I go back to my top level and I click into my order entry view transactions and hit include private, I can see a bunch of transactions here, and I'm only going into this to show you how views work. So if I click manage views and create new view, I have the option to select from all of these options here what I want to put on my main view. So I can put like my project contract ID, contract date, different things, scope, whatever you want from these particular items you can put on your view. And then you have the option to set that column sequence so you can drag them around however you like. And then you can rename them all so that they say what makes most sense for you. On the next screen, then you have the option to put it in column filters. So let's say for your state, you could say state equals to submitted or drafted or paid or whatever the state would be. You can do several different options here. You have the option to do less than or equal to, let's say for dates or something like that, or contains, and you can put in your project ID. So lots of options there with your filters. And then you can sort your results as well. You can say like the most important thing for me is the date. I want to put that at the top and I want to go in ascending order or something like that. And then the last step is to give it a name. And then if you hit this deploy button, that means that you're allowing other users to be able to access that view. So they would also see that view if you hit deploy. If you leave that off, then you're the only one that's going to be able to see it. And then you would save. So once you've saved that view, then here in your all dropdown, if you click that, it would appear here if you've saved that view. And then from there, once you have a view that you like, it nearly acts like a report and you can export it out to Excel or Word or wherever you want to send it. And that's going to be across Intacct as well. You can use these views and you can have them act like reports. You can also, filter out by just typing in a name here. So let's say I wanted to just look at anything that starts with star, any transactions that start with star, I can type that in up here. But then let's say I knew enterprises was in the name, but I didn't know where it was in the name. I could use my little % sign as my wildcard and then do enter, and it's going to bring up anything that has enter in the name. It doesn't necessarily have to start with that. It's just in the name. So use your % sign as a little wildcard there. So that's using your views like a report, basically. And then, that can be exported out. You can also import transactions across Intacct. So if you hit the import button, it gives you the option to download those templates that you can then put your information into to do your import. And when you get to the process of going live, there are certain templates that will give you where you have no choice but to put your information in because you're pulling in all your info from your old system. So you will get very familiar with import templates by the time you go live. And then also in order entry and accounts receivable, you have this, tax setup. So taxes are going to be covered in a separate section. There's quite a lot of setup to do to get your taxes all configured. So there's a whole separate section on that and will probably require you to do one-to-one with us. So if you have the need for that, that is upcoming. So that's just the first video on the order entry AR learning. So stay tuned for some more transactions that you can do within those two modules. We're going to take a closer look then at order entry setup transaction definitions. And we're going to see how we can say which template we want to use by transaction definitions. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with transaction definitions. There's quite a lot of configuration that goes into the setup of them, but you should have project contract invoice, project contract T&M invoice, and quick bill in your system. So if I click edit beside project contract invoice, and I'm on my general tab here, I'm going to scroll down to the print section, And here on my printed document template is where I'm telling the system, when I create a project contract invoice within the system, here is the template that I want to print or email out of the system for that transaction. So if I hit my drop down, all of the printed document templates that I have for invoice in the system will pop up, and I'm going to select whichever one I want to send out of the system then for that particular workflow, which in this case is project contract invoice. And I want to use application for payment. So I want it to be an AIA type invoice. And we do have AIA type invoices that we use, and we can get that in for you. And we can tweak it as well if you need. So let's say you put it in here on your general tab. That's going to be the template that's used for that workflow across the system. But let's say you wanted to use a different template depending on your entity. You can do that if you go to the entity tab and say for your Timberline GC, you want to use, you can also have a different numbering sequence. You can have a different numbering sequence by entity, and you can choose to use a different document template also. So you could use your Intacct, a regular Intacct one, or whatever makes sense for you. You could do project contract progress bill. So you can use different templates for all of your entities, or you can just put it on the general tab and it's going to apply across Intacct. While we're in here, I just want to mention one other thing in the security configuration tab, that when this was set up, it's set up with an edit and delete policy of all. You may want to tighten that up at this point. If you're an admin, you can always come in and change it if you wanted to delete transactions out of the system. And maybe you are trying to delete something, it hasn't been paid and you're not able to. It could be because this is set as no delete. And you can also turn on enable permission for specific users or groups. And let's say for my user Emma, I'm going to add in here and I'm going to allow everyone, but I'm going to deny Emma. So I don't want Emma to be able to do anything with project contract invoices. So I'm going to deny access to that workflow to that user. You can also do it by user groups if you have user groups set up in the system. So I just wanted to go over that quickly with you. There is a lot to the transaction definitions, but you will have to apply the printed document template at the transaction definition level. You can do it by entity, and then you can also use the security tab to tighten up security on that. So let's say you have on the transaction definition set so that you can delete all. So if we go to order entry, then I'm actually going to go to my entity level and I'm going to go to order entry. I'm going to go project contract invoice, and you'll see here in my order entry, I have the option to delete. So because I have that configured at the transaction definition level, I can delete out any of these invoices that I created that do not have a payment applied against them. So I could just select that and delete, and they're going to delete out of the system. The other thing that you can do, let's say there's a payment applied. If there's a payment been applied, you cannot delete it out of the system. It has to be reversed. But you can do reclassifications. So if I go to my accounts receivable, then take a look at my invoices, and I'm going to go in here to Wicker Property Managers because this one has been paid, and I'm going to edit on this, and you'll see that there's a reclassify button up here on my invoice. So I can hit reclassify, even though this is a project contract invoice. I can hit reclassify in accounts receivable, come down here and say on my first line here, I'm going to show details and the cost code is fees. Let's say that was supposed to be permits. I'm going to change the cost code here to permits or whatever it is that you need to change, as in reclassify, and I'm going to post, and then that change is going to take effect. So you can reclassify after something's been paid, but you will not be able to delete it out of the system. You would have to reverse it out. And then if it's a project contract invoice, you would have to do a negative project contract invoice to apply against the original and then redo the billing. And then that gets covered more in your project workflow class. But I just wanted to show you how you can do the reclassification. And then if there's no payments against it, you can just delete right out of order entry. So the delete option is here. In this video, we're going to take a look at the accounts receivable module and some of the transactions that you will do within that module. So if you have adjustments that are related to projects, you will want to do that within the projects module, because if you do it in AR, it's not going to flow back to projects. So anything related to a project, as far as adjustments, you're going to do it in the projects module, and that is covered in the project workflow class. So in AR, let's say you do want to do an adjustment, you can add where you see the green button right from the menu, or you can click in and you can add from there. Anything with the red asterisk is required. You do have to put in a customer. You can say whether it's a credit memo or a debit memo. And down here on your entry screen, then you can hit show details to bring up all of the dimensions that you can possibly code to. And you can always hit more actions, edit entries, layout to move that around however makes the most sense for your company. Advances, then, if you have a customer that's given you a check in advance, you can receive that here. So I have my accounts receivable module configured to go directly to undeposited funds, whereas you might have yours going directly to the bank, which is totally fine. That can be overridden here. So I'm going undeposited funds account, my 010099 GL account, and my payment method is defaulting as check, but that can also be overridden. You do have to select a customer. So I'm going to hit Star Enterprises. I'm receiving it on 5/6. Payment date is also 5/6. So I'm just going to put in, you don't have to put in a check number here, but I'm going to just make one up. It's going to accounts receivable, and I'm receiving $50,000. And you can put in your coding as well. So I can say this is going to construction operations, Timberline GC, and the project that I wanted to go to is the Crest. So that's receiving my advance. I'm going to post that. And that will then create a credit in the system for that customer. So because I've sent this now to undeposited funds, that's just the first step in the process. I basically then have to go to deposits, and I would then choose the bank account that I want to deposit that check into. So I receive the check into undeposited funds. Let's say you have several checks that you receive into undeposited funds, and then you do a batch deposit to the bank, which is absolutely 100% typical. So I hit my bank account here in my deposit. You don't have to actually select anything else here except for the bank account. You just hit continue, and it brings up all of the checks that are available to be deposited to that bank account. So here's my Star Enterprises $50,000, and I'm going to select that. And I can put in, payment method check, and put in whatever I want. But basically, I just select that check, and I'm depositing that check now to my ET checking and save. So that's the second step in the process if you're using undeposited funds. So manual deposits, then I'm going to click into this. So say you have a deposit to do, but there's no invoice for it in the system. This manual deposit is going to allow you to do that, and it's going to create an invoice in the system for you for that deposit. So you can put in your customer, anything with the red asterisk is required, and you can do a manual deposit. So receive payments new is then how you're going to receive payments within the system. So if I click into receive payments, and I'm going to do, you may only have one customer invoice. Obviously, you have the option here to do multiple if you ever had to do that. I'm going to choose Star Enterprises. And I'm sending this to undeposited funds, and it's defaulting in the GL account for that. You can switch that to bank, or you may have it default to bank yourself, which is totally fine. You don't have to put in a check number, but I'm just going to make one up here, and I'm going to say that I received $25,000. Show invoices, and then it's going to bring up all of the invoices that I have in the system for Star Enterprises. So I'm going to select this invoice, and I'm going to add and close. And this credit available, the $50,000, is the advance that I put in for Star Enterprises. So I'm going to cancel out of that, and I'm just showing you that, that credit is available for that customer to use. And I'm not going to apply any of the credit right now, but you can choose what amount of that credit you would want to apply. So I put in $25,000 received. It's defaulting that in here, and it's partially paying this invoice. So when you go to select invoices, you can add multiple if you have multiple. So then I have that applied. I'm going to post. And then just like before, we receive the payment into undeposited funds. The second step would be to go into your deposit and then deposit that to the bank. So that's receiving your payment. That's just some of the transactions that you would do through the accounts receivable module. And then we'll break here. And then in the next video, we're going to go through reports and printing emailing statements out of the system. In this video, we're going to go to our accounts receivable module and we'll take a look first at this print or email option that you have here. So in accounts receivable, print or email is going to allow you to send out statements or invoices from the system in mass. So this is going to use the printed document templates that are compatible with the accounts receivable module. So if you're trying to send AIA type document templates out of the system, you won't be doing it from AR. You'll have to send them out of either the projects or the order entry module. So if I go to projects and I hit view here, it's going to bring up my project contract invoices and I'd print or email them using this option. But if you just have like your regular invoices that are not related to project contracts and you want to send them out in mass, you can do that using the accounts receivable module, print or email. So I'm going to hit print or email. I'm going to go into the invoices option. And then I have obviously you can play around with this, look at it yourself and decide what makes the most sense for you. But you have your time periods, your different filters where you can, specify a customer and you can change the formatting here. So you'll set up a printed document template at the configuration level for accounts receivable, but you can change that on the fly here. Let's say there's a particular customer that you want to send a specific document template out to, then you can change that here when you're sending out using the print or email invoices option. So let me just change my reporting period and I'm going to say inception to date, and I'm going to view to bring up all those invoices that are available to be sent out of the system. It's automatically going to check them off for print, and then you can say whether you want to email them as well. So this email address is going to come from our customer setup. And if there is no email address in, you can type one in. If you wanted to add an additional person to send it to, you just have to separate it using a comma or semicolon. And you can also CC or BCC other email addresses. So once you have that the way you want, you hit print or email and then they'll send or print out of the system. It's going to be much the same for your statements. So I'm going to go accounts receivable, print or email, hit statements. It's all the same options here with time period, filters, and format. You can change the printed document template view, and it's going to give you the option to either print or view or email them out of the system. As with all of our other modules, accounts receivable has a reports section over here, and we have our out-of-the-box reports. And then we have custom reports, which, you can build out and then you can add them to the menu so that you have, easy access to them. Or your memorized and stored reports will also come up here. So these out-of-the-box reports, let's just take a look at the customer aging report. You can edit the aging periods if you have multiple buckets. And I'm going to just switch my date here really quickly. And then we have our filters and format options down here, which you can play around with. Maybe you want it to be detailed rather than summary. Do you want to filter by location, department, choose a specific customer? So there are some things that you can do with your out-of-the-box reports. So you can customize using the filters and formatting options that are available here. But with the out-of-the-box reports, you cannot edit them to add additional filters. So let's say on your customer aging, you wanted to filter by project, you would have to create a new report to include that filter because these out-of-the-box reports cannot be edited. So once I have my customization done, then I can view and it's going to give me my customer aging report, which shows me my aging buckets as I specified in my customization, and my retainage value balance is going to show up here as well. I also have my registers, so receipts register. Once again, you have your filters and your formatting options that are built out of the box. You're not going to be able to edit them. You can only customize what they've put in here, but these out-of-the-box reports cannot be edited. Another thing within the accounts receivable module is the ability to close your subledgers. So if you wanted to close them out before you close GL, that's absolutely fine. You're just going to hit close there and then select the period that you want to close that up to. So I'm going to hit month end of July 2023, close out that subledger. And then you can also do this at top level. So when I was at entity level, it didn't ask me what I was closing out. It knew I was closing out the entity, but you can also close your subledgers from top level. So if I went to accounts receivable and hit close, it's just going to ask me which entity I want to close down. You can leave this blank and it'll close all of the subledgers up to whatever period that you select. Books also can be reopened. So you can hit the open subledger, you can choose which entity you want to open up and what period you want to open that up to. And then another thing that I wanted to show you with, closing down your subledgers is if you go to dashboards, let me just click into Sarah's dashboard for now and show you an option that you can see at a glance which subledgers are closed by entity. So I can hit the plus button here, add a component. I'm going to go with general component type. And on my component drop down, I'm going to choose close through summary. I'll change my height here to make it a little bigger. And I'm going to select the entity view and save that. And then it's going to give me this component on my dashboard that shows me the date that my subledgers have been closed through by entity. So for each entity, what date they're closed up until. So that's pretty nice at a glance report for that. A lot of clients do ask for that. So that's in your dashboards, general component type, close through summary.